Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. Back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the FPV News. Blunty, I'm very happy to be here with you. How you doing tonight?
Good. It's the news. It's Tuesday.
It's the news. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's what I was doing.
You're used to it. I am an interrupty person. I am. It's true. You got to really hold your own when you're in a conversation with me. I try to tone it down. Somebody commented last week and was like, "Stop interrupting Blunty when he's like, dropping knowledge." I was like, "Shit, am I doing it again?" Oh well. I will.
Something I've learned: the more viewers and the more comments and stuff that we receive, right, is just that people like to read into things that people do with their own personal stuff, So just if you see an interaction, between us, right, it's fine. Like, we're both adults. We can talk to each other.
It's true.
We have a professional and personal relationship. It's cool. We
do. So we do have a,
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just remember that, like, I'm okay with him interrupting me. If I wasn't, I would go, "Hey, I had something to say. Everything's fine." Like,
and Oh, cool. Thank you. I do. And you know what we do? I feel like we do have a personal relationship. You know that of all the time. I mean, it's a weird relationship because I've never met you in person. And if I ever did, it would probably be super weird and awkward, but it'd probably be fine. But thank you.
We play video games together on the off time.
We have done that. You're one of the few people that I interact with, like outside of work. And there's aren't a lot of people I do that with. I mean, I don't know. There's some, but you're one of them. Anyway.
Yeah.
A big bro hug across the. I don't know.
Yeah.
There we go. Anyway.
All right.
We're going to talk about news now that we've had our little moment. And we're just going to get right into it. Let's get right into it. We're going to
let's
start
get into
with a quick announcement about something near and dear to you, Blunty, the FPV Freedom Coalition.
Yeah, so every other Tuesday we'll have these community meetings, and a few extra people showed up last 2 weeks ago for the last one than has before. So we'd love if anybody else wanted to show up. We've decided to post the YouTube live stream for you here. So tomorrow you can show up to this, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. You can show up in the YouTube chat and hang out. And watch us talk about stuff, or you can come in the Discord and you can participate in, you can hang on the voice chat and hear us talk and chat with us and let us know what's going on. So we'd love if you come in and hang out. We talk about some of the stuff we've been doing with FPVFC, and we answer any like law questions or remote ID questions or any kind of stuff you wanted to know. So
FPV Freedom Coalition, in case anybody here is new, and if you're new, welcome. Glad to have you on the stream, and welcome to this channel and the FPV community in general, for whatever you're new at. FPV Freedom Coalition is a nonprofit organization that works to affect laws related to FPV and the RC hobby in general, but specifically FPV, in a positive way, to represent hobbyists, to be a voice in the room when the Amazons and the Googles and the UPSs of the world are talking. And and AMA is there, and maybe they're not exactly thinking about us. FPV Freedom Coalition is working to be there. Not at all. Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to throw darts at them.
I'll just say that I had to explain to my mom and dad what it was, so I kind of figured out the best way to say it is people got to make laws, and the people who make laws' job is not to do all the other things to make laws. So they don't know how to make all the law. They just know what laws they have to make. So they make work groups and a bunch of community get-togethers, and people petition and all this stuff. And that's what we're doing, is participating in those things. So it's not just big businesses. It's us as well, representing the hobbyists in the community. Yeah. So when all those laws get changed from those work groups and they decide how to do it all, we can make sure we're there and getting those good decisions being made for us.
And a lot of people maybe know the FPV Freedom Coalition exists, or maybe they don't, but they have no idea what you guys actually do. And by the way, you're a member of the FPV Freedom Coalition as of last week. It was announced. Getting to listen to these meetings. I mean, I talked to Dave Messina, I think he's a founding member, if not the founding member.
He's running it. So
and the things he tells me about what's going on behind the scenes are so interesting and insightful, and give a perspective, because we just see regulation is happening, and he has all this perspective on what's actually happening, the movers and shakers and priorities. And some people that'll be interesting, and you can kind of get a glimpse at that by going to these community meetings and hearing what the FPVFC people are talking about. So
our private, just to get an idea, our private meeting last Wednesday was almost 2 hours. So we got a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff in the works, and we're fighting for you. So I'm glad to share some information about it.
And I'll say one more thing before we move on. I can tell you're wrapping up. Sometimes people are suspicious, because anybody who is interfacing with the government, you might be suspicious. Oh, are you selling us out? Are you really representing our interests? Again, by making these meetings public, obviously the actual conversations and meetings you're having with lawmakers are probably private. Maybe sometimes they're public, but in this case, you can actually see the things that the FPV Freedom Coalition is talking about. Super valuable.
Yeah,
so, all right, we got a link to that down in the video description, along with all the show notes, and you can check that out. We have one public service announcement. Public service announcements are little things that are so important that even though they're not like news, we still think we need to warn you about them right here at the top of the stream. And it was inspired by someone who was super chatting on my last live stream, I think on Sunday. And he was saying, my Walksnail goggles won't power on. And I was like, well, do you know where the button is? Maybe you just didn't realize they had a power button. Somehow you missed that. Is the power button on? He's like, well, they used to work, but then I plugged a 6S battery in, and now they don't work anymore. And there was a spark that came out of it when I plugged it in. And I was like, oh, I see what happened. You fried him with 6S. So the public service announcement is,
stop putting 6S to your Walksnail goggles. Everybody might not lose them, but a lot of people are losing them. Do not lose your Walksnail goggles. Do not require to send them back. Even though they say they work with 6S, in the Chris Rosser interview, they said, but be careful. So that seems like just don't use 6S.
And I'm so, and we could rant about this, but it's going to be over before we get into a rant. I'm so annoyed at them because they said, Chris Rosser said, are they good for 6S? And Walksnail's like, yeah, they're good for 6S, but be careful. What the F does that mean? Like, I'm going to be very careful when I plug in the 6S battery?
There's not.
There's no careful. Either they're rated for 6S or they're not, and they're not. If 1% of the people who plug in a 6S battery fry the regulator, they're not rated for 6S.
100%. Don't use it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
So don't. Get a voltage regulator cable. I have a cable I made with Newbie Drone that has some. I'm not going to waste your time on the news plugging my products. But whatever you do, don't use them on 6S. Even if you've gotten away with it in the past, don't necessarily, because it sucks to fry your goggles, right? Obviously.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yes. Even if it doesn't cost you anything, you have shipping time and hassle.
Exactly.
So don't do it.
Yeah. All right. That's the PSA. That's the only PSA today. So now. Yeah, they're rated for 6S. My guess, Blunty, and this is just a guess, so I don't know why I'm wasting everybody's time with it. My guess is the regulator is rated for like 25 volts.
Yeah, I'm guessing if you're like 4.2 or 4.0 on your cells, everything's fine, right? If you're like just on the threshold, but if you're like 4.3 or something, then it'll fry it.
And maybe it doesn't fry it all the time. Maybe sometimes you get away with it. Yeah, but
agree.
it needs headroom, and my guess is it just doesn't have any headroom. So,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, you could charge your 6S to 4.0 volts and just be super careful. But why? Don't put yourself through that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Next up, we've got news about cameras. Now, last week we talked about the leaks and pre-release information about the GoPro Hero 11 and the DJI Osmo Action. Now they've come out, and we can talk about them.
Yeah, we can make sure we cover them. So the Hero 11 Black Mini, we'll say real quick, did not come out on time. That's going to come out October the 25th. We were hoping it was be like day and date release, so that'll come out at some point later. But yeah, so we've got the Hero 11 Black, got the Hero 11 Black Mini, and we've got the Osmo Action 3, kind of all in the lineup. So I guess we could quickly look at maybe the Hero 11 and just talk about, the new features on that. So the couple of new things they've done, it's a new bigger sensor. And it's 8x7. I think that to me is the most interesting thing is they've changed the sensor format, right?
Yeah, and 8x7 is not a standard. I'm trying to see an example of that. Here's the aspect ratio. 8x7 is not a standard aspect ratio in film or anything, as far as I know. We've got 4:3, we've got 16:9. The point of the 8x7 sensor is that it allows you to crop vertically if you choose to use a vertical field of view for social. It allows you to crop horizontally if you need to do that. It just gives you a lot of flexibility, and it gives you a wider vertical field of view for stabilization, which improves stabilization. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, and it's also got it's not only it's got I think they're calling it what's it? Not Hypersmooth. Hypersmooth 5.0 is the new version of Hypersmooth. But they've also got Hyperview, which is their new version of Superview, which is, like we talked about, there's that more room for vertical stabilization, and it seems to use that so that it warps the picture a little less when it's doing stuff. So, yeah.
Now, one of the features that the Hero 11 Black is reported to have that separates it from the Hero 10 is 10-bit color. And if people don't know, the short version is that if you do a lot of aggressive color grading, then having 8-bit color can be limiting, and 10-bit color gives you more flexibility to do aggressive. So more for professionals than hobbyists. But professionals, they want that 10-bit color, and it hurts them to not get it. There was a post by Sander Sasson. Sander Sasson replied to the post. He was participating in the thread, and he gave me some information about it. There was a post saying that 10-bit was not available like in any of the 4:3 aspect ratios. It was only available in some of the 16:9 aspect ratios, and was not available at the higher frame rates. Like he says, clients want 120 FPS so that they have the option to ramp down the speed, for example. And he was like, this is useless to me.
Yeah, it seems like it was limited, and I assume that's because something about the sensor sampling maybe, or something about the ability of the of the CPU. You know, there's like whatever ASIC they have in there, you know, we don't know how really powerful it is. So there's been a lot of talk about like how much they can actually sample and how, if they're cheating a little bit and stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting to see, the movements, but it'll be it's also interesting to see the caveats there. One thing we could say as well, you know, the 10-bit color was an advertised feature for the Action 3, which we'll talk about in a second, but the Action 3 unfortunately did not get that at release. There's talk of it being in a software update at some point in the future, but that does separate the Hero 10 as well as the sensor shape and other things, right? Yeah. Separates it.
I mean, I think the Hero 3, no, sorry, not the Hero, the Action 3. For me, the Action 3 has been completely eclipsed in almost every way by the Hero 11. So we don't have a link to this. I kind of wish we did, but it's a little late now. Potato Jet. People probably know who Potato Jet is. If you don't, you should. His review of the Hero 11 and the Action 3, I watched a bunch of reviews. His was amazing. And one of the things he did that really stood out was he took side-by-side footage of the two cameras, and he showed the footage to his friends, filmmakers and cinematographers, and he had them blind react to it without knowing which camera was which. And so they're saying things like, the sky looks more detail on the left, there's more noise on the right. And then at the end, he reveals which one's which. And I thought it was one of and he does all kinds of lighting conditions, all kinds of different things. I thought it was a really, really great way to highlight the differences in those cameras. But long story short, the Hero just wrecked the Osmo in almost every situation, except low light. The Osmo had more detail because of a larger sensor, but also more image noise. So, yeah, I don't know. The Osmo's a little cheaper, but...
Well, I think one of the wrenches in that, like, I agree with you, but there is at least some benefit in price. It depends on, though, how it works out with the replacements and with the subscription plans and how many GoPros you have and stuff. But it is interesting that the Action 3 comes in at $329. GoPro is $399 with the subscription.
But the Mini's going to be $300.
Right, and the Mini's going to be $300, which I think is kind of where the wrench gets thrown in, right? Because it's hard to imagine that there's... I don't know how many people still want the screen, but still want to pay $70 less for what seems like an inferior camera. And like, I don't know that the Action 3 really has a niche, you know?
I mean, I agree. And I don't know. It's tough for me to know how much of this is me being a professional and having a different perspective on budgeting than a hobbyist. Yeah. But it feels like by the time you're spending $320 whatever on an action camera, to then say you're going to spend $400-ish on a much better action camera, it's a 25%, so whatever, 25% difference. Okay, it's a big difference, but it's such a better camera.
Or $30 less for a better action camera that's lighter and also doesn't have screens on it that you can break. Yeah, which I think, to me, is where it really dies. Like, I think that, like, if we weren't seeing the Hero 11 Black Mini, I still think there might be a lower price bracket world where people, you know, it's like, 20 or 30% cheaper, whatever it works out to. So there is I think there's some world there where people would be down with that. But I just think Hero 11 Black Mini is going to kill that market that it would have.
Yep. Well, that's not out for another month or so. It's October 25th. But I'm really torn on whether to buy a Hero 11 today and try it out or whether to wait for the Mini. Probably going to wait for the Mini. One other thing that came up talking about the 10-bit output is I think it's 120 megabits per second. And right now, what Sander was saying is that he shoots 4:3, so you get that wide aspect ratio for the stabilization. He shoots 4:3. They want high resolution, like 4,000 by 3,000 resolution, so that they can crop in a little bit with the stabilization and not lose pixels. They want 120 FPS, and they want 200 megabits per second, which you can get with the GoPro Labs firmware. And he was like, basically, the 10-bit color is not usable because he can't get those other things that he wants. And he's like, there's no reason for me to buy the 11 over the 10, which I was like, wow, that's a really, like, I mention him by name because that's just not a perspective that I have as I look at the camera.
Yeah.
So, very interesting. Okay. If you want to know more about those cameras, go watch Potato Jet's review. It's the best. That's what I'd say. Not right now. Stay here, watch the news. But I'm excited to try the 8:7 aspect ratio and just see what a wide square aspect ratio kind of looks like for FPV. I think it's got some potential to be interesting.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Next up, there's a new thing related to DJI in the world.
Yeah, so we've teased it a lot. A lot of people have teased it around the internet. A lot of people know that it was existing for a while. But now, finally, we have the release of the at least the beta release of the FPV.WTF route. And with that comes the configurator. So essentially,
so that's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so essentially how this works is, you have a video out you put out today, and so does MadsTech, where basically you plug in the goggles to your computer on the website, and then basically you plug in the goggles to the computer on the website, and then you can route through the website.
Today,
And then basically you route through the website, and then you can install packages onto the goggles. And those packages are things like, I'm trying to think of what's there basically still. So basically the OSD stuff. So that's the big one.
The big one. Is the Betaflight. You can get the full Betaflight OSD as we've always wanted. There are other packages. The reason I think you're hesitating is that several of the high demand packages were recently removed. I don't want to get into the details. I'm not sure I'm going to get the details right. There's a little bit of drama maybe, but it had something to do with them not being open source. And so they were pulled, and you can still install them if you download them directly from the person's repo, but they're not available through the configurator. I'm told that the WTF team is working on rebuilding them and making them from scratch with open source, but there's no time frame when that happens. Things like audio through the AV port on the V1 goggles. Things like, what was another one that got taken down?
The bitrate.
The 30 and 60 megabit per second bitrate, get a little higher bitrate. Those are missing. They may or may not come back, or if you're really, really adventuresome and aren't afraid of the command line, you can install them yourself. But the DJI, the Betaflight OSD is the big one, obviously. So
yeah. But the other thing we wanted to let you know about, just so you know, is not only is this stuff out, but MadsTech is doing a stream on Friday where he's going to have some of the guys from the FPV WTF project talking and taking a Q&A on this stuff, and discussing, how it works and all that kind of stuff, and answering questions for you and stuff. So, pretty cool.
Scott Milano in the chat asks, do you have to flash both the air unit and the goggles, or just the goggles? It's both. You flash them both. You root them both. You're not really flashing them. You're rooting them. I guess you add some code. I don't know what's the definition of a flash, but you root them both and you install the plugin on them both. You can see it done in the video. Both me and MadsTech have a video out today. I do want to acknowledge that I jumped the gun on the release of the video, and some people over on the Discord were annoyed at that, and I do want to acknowledge that since it's happened today, and say that I had this video ready to go 3 weeks ago based on public information that was on the wiki, and I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna make a video. And Junis, one of the developers, said, well, could you hold the video, because there are a couple of bugs, and they won't affect everybody, but if they're going to affect a significant number of people, and it'll make a lot of work for us when people come to the Discord and complain about the bugs. And I was like, sure. And it took maybe 2 weeks, maybe a little longer, I'm not sure, before they fixed the bugs. And last week he came to me, and he basically said, I don't want to quote him or misquote him, but he basically said, okay, the bugs are done. We're kind of, putting a bow on everything. And we're going to be doing a stream with MadsTech on Friday. And if you want to release your video prior to the stream, you can do that. And he was like, Friday's the day that we're going to be like making a big deal out of it, but it's up to you if you want to release the video. And so I was like, well, okay. And I did. I didn't realize that it would potentially make like a lot of like hassle for people who were trying to support it. So I was just like, okay, the video's done. I'm going to put it out there. So I apologize to anybody on the Discord who was surprised. I was just like, okay, I've made a video. Now I'm releasing it. And apparently it didn't seem that way to the people over on the Discord. So I apologize that made a hassle for you guys. Just wanted to say that. Okay, let's see here.
The other one thing I want to mention real quick, the other thing is FPV.WTF. Some people have been using that for video out, and that is going away because that will switch to the beta version of the OS configurator for the goggles. So if you need video out, we've got them linked in the show notes, but you can use wide FPV or live.fpvout.com. Those are both solutions you can use.
No, not instead. That one. So this is the website. Thank you. This is the website that currently exists to do video out, and this will be replaced by the WTFOS video website. And then you're saying that if you do want to do video out using this method, widefpv.com is the one?
Yeah, that's the good one.
And
then also if you need one other one, there's live.fpvout.com.
Okay. Live.fpvout.com. Okay, great. Okay. So that's really exciting. And we could do another rant, and I don't know if we will, but how effing stupid is it that DJI never did this? Like, I don't know if I thought there was some technical reason. And these guys are super smart and super dedicated, and I wouldn't take anything away from them. But if a bunch of hackers who don't have access to source code and don't have all the tools that the DJI developers have can do this in their spare time, then DJI could have done it. They could have just done it.
A bunch of people starting from square zero instead of square three. You know what I mean? Or 100%. I definitely agree with that. It is. We all know that. I mean, now we can definitely see that. I mean, most of us have seen this for a while, but it's unfortunate that they chose to not support this kind of thing and do what seems to be for them would be trivial to pay some developers, for a little while to make it happen. And instead we have to have open source community projects. So this is also a good time to remind you that people have taken their time out to do this. And that there's a donation link, which I forgot to put in the show notes, but is all over the place. I think it's Open Collective. Yep.
It's Open Collective. I've donated. I actually, anytime I work with an open source project like this, where I am basically making a living on the back of the project, I try to generously donate so that, just as a way of saying thanks. I made a big donation yesterday, and I hope that anybody who uses this, and let's face it, if you have DJI and you have Betaflight, you're going to use this. You should make at least a small donation because these guys work their ass off at this. By the way, it also works with iNav, not just Betaflight. So if you have iNav, you're good. And
ArduPilot, I think it's buggy, but ArduPilot, yes. And I think KISS has support. I know Fedorov has been in there talking at least with Ultra, but I'm not sure about base KISS stuff.
Okay, so definitely support these guys. They have absolutely earned it. And
also, I'm sorry, one more thing is that known issues page. Maybe we could just mention real quickly.
Where's that? Is that in the notes?
That's at the top of the Discord. So if you just flip over to the Discord, I'm going to go to the known issues channel.
Oh, man. Okay, hang on.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. But let's see. Open Discord. Okay. Did you know? And then, why is it all the way down at the bottom? It must be one of the first other ones I added.
And then that top link there, that known issues there.
Okay. So if you are trying to do this...
Sorry. No? Close that. The top channel. Sorry, on the left.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
So if you're trying to use this, definitely join the Discord and definitely make note of the known issues in case you run into one of them. So
there's some bugs with iNav and ArduPilot, and there's some different temperature control stuff. So they're all working on that stuff. But there's support there for you. Again, please support these guys with some money if you're using this project because it's all free time. So,
hey, who hit? No. Don't hide Aber the Ham. Scarecrow, why is Scarecrow hide? How is Scarecrow able to hide? Is that unhide user on this channel? That's an accident. Aber, come back, my friend. I'm pretty sure. Sorry, we had a little bit of nonsense going on in the chat. All right. There are a couple. Was there another question? No. What about the extra 20% bandwidth options? I'm really curious about the difference. Funny Bunny. I think a lot of people are wondering about the 30 megabit per second, 60 megabit per second module. Basically, my understanding of that is that it uses some bandwidth that DJI reserved for special administrative background functions that are used to increase the stability of the link. So what it results in is a higher bandwidth link, but it's also less stable and can have bigger latency swings and less penetration. So the reason DJI didn't give you 30 megabits per second is because they were using that 5 megabits per second for something else. So if you decide to try that, it's you may not get the result you expect to get. Okay, just wanted to get that out there. Okay, Blunty, what's next?
All right, next up, we got plugs. It's halfway through the show, so we got to let people know about what we do and where we are at.
Plugs.
Yeah. So you can find me at itsblunty.com, where I've got troubleshooting and one-on-one calls you can get up with me. I've also got a Patreon. You could sign up for my Patreon. And support me if you'd like to support me a little bit extra.
And yesterday somebody left a comment and was like, everybody's got a Patreon nowadays. Everybody just asking for money. Go to my Patreon. Who's this Blunty guy? What is he? And I was like, so first of all, listen, if that's how you feel, don't join his Patreon. It's like, I think of Patreon like a busker on the street. They're playing music, they're singing a song, they got a hat. If you walk by and you don't like the song, just keep walking. No big deal. Yeah. Nobody cares. If you like the song, you throw $1 in the hat or whatever. That's all it is. But you help a shitload of people. He just hasn't met you yet. You help a shitload of people, so you
I try. Earn it. For sure.
And we've also got FPVKnowItAll.com, my website, home of the ultimate FPV shopping list, where you can find my recommended parts in a wide variety of categories. And so check that out if you're looking for, need a tiny whoop, need a racing frame. What motors does Bardwell recommend? And Joshua Bardwell live stream clips, where Blunty goes through my live streams and finds the best parts and uploads them there, so you don't have to listen to my whole live streams if you don't want to or can't.
Absolutely.
Dominic Clifton has a Patreon. Dominic, you have a business. You have a company. If you have a company, I guess you can have a Patreon too. What the F? But I would just buy your products if they were ever in stock, like everything. I guess you're going to need that Patreon. I see now. I understand. Okay. Anyways, we'd love to have you as a subscriber over at Joshua Bardwell Livestream Clips. Up to 5.3K subs, and it's good stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Dominic doesn't get paid. That's true, Dominic. He says, I don't get paid for my work on the Betaflight code. That's all free and open source.
Yeah.
Well, am I a patron of his? I'm going to have to go look. I try and patron just about everybody in the FPV community for at least a little bit of money, just because, I like to pay it forward or pay it back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up, we got some cool new ExpressLRS news. ExpressLRS never fails to give us more cool stuff. This is another cool thing from ExpressLRS. So Jai Smith has posted a video about the Gemini TX. He has developed an open source project for a dual TX. And this is exciting because basically, okay, so if you've got a diversity receiver, right, that diversity receiver can pick up on either side. Mm-hmm. So his thought was, why don't we just make a diversity transmitter, and then we'll just send 2 packets and receive both packets. Mm-hmm. And that's what this does. At a very simple level, that's what he's doing here. So basically, you're sending out 2 packets instead of 1, and they're being received by 2 receivers instead of 1, because you've got the full diversity receiver, like the EP1 dual that's out. Mm-hmm. And then not only that, but those are on frequency shift. So there are 2 different frequencies. So there's some kind of, reliance. There's basic reliance there on, avoiding interference. Mm-hmm. But it gets even better, because now with ExpressLRS 3.0, we've got all the D modes. Mm-hmm. And all the D modes let us do more packets. Like on the normal mode, right? You can double your packets and frequency shift those, right? And it basically sends 2 packets out at intervals and then decides, make sure it gets a good one. This basically lets you send out double the packets. So now you're sending out 4 packets or 8 packets, right? And those are all frequency shifted, or at least the 8 are shifted into 6 frequencies. So this is just basically more reliability in the link, more stability overall, higher LQ, and more situations, and just kind of a cool progression. So.
Worth pointing out, and I always like to give credit where credit's due, and people are very concerned about who did something first. Worth pointing out that Immersion RC Ghost has a mode similar to this. I believe its native rate is 500 hertz, and then it doubles each packet, so you get a rate of 250 hertz. It has a diversity transmitter. It has since day one. Their argument was, let's put the diversity in the module instead of in the receiver. ExpressLRS seems to be saying, well, let's just do both. Let's have diversity receivers with diversity modules.
Well, yeah, because the point is, like, even with a diversity transmitter, you can't send 2 packets at once. You can only send 1 packet back and forth.
Right.
Because the receiver can't receive 2 unless it's got 2 receivers. So the full diversity receiver can receive both. And that's kind of what makes this so reliable, is because you're actually sending 2 packets at the same time on different frequencies instead of rapidly sending them, on different frequencies and stuff.
So the ExpressLRS, the D modes that you mentioned in ExpressLRS 3.0, they run the link at a native rate of, I believe, 1,000 hertz. And then they divide it by either 2 or 4. So it retransmits each packet twice or 4 times, giving you a rate of either 250 or 500 hertz, and it doesn't just retransmit it, as you said, it jumps around. But now we're not just going to jump around. We're also going to switch and transmit on multiple antennas, multiple radios, and as you said, it just basically the takeaway for users is your LQ will stay super, super high all the time because you can afford to drop 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 packets and still the packet gets through. That's the takeaway.
Yeah,
right?
you could drop in D250 with this receiver, you could drop 6 packets and still have 100 LQ.
Now the takeaway,
like 6 out of 8, basically.
The trade-off there is that because you're running at 1,000 hertz, I believe that's FLRC modulation, then you get significantly decreased range compared to something like 50 hertz LoRa. So this is going to be not going to be for long range. It's going to be for racers who want maximum LQ, maximum smoothness all the time. Though
this also will work. It's not just the D mode, so this will work in LoRa as well. So
the diversity, the Gemini transmitter.
So the diversity TX will work all the way up and down. So basically, whatever you're using gets better with the diversity TX. That's the idea.
Yeah, neat. Yeah. Well, now if you were to say that ExpressLRS was sort of trying to eat Crossfire's lunch in a way until now, and Tracer's lunch, now it feels like they're coming for Ghost. Not that they were kind of competing with Ghost before in that they were both a 2.4 gigahertz LoRa-based Semtex system, but now the diversity is one thing that Ghost has had that nobody has had except them, and now whoops. So
and 3.0 brought us FLRC. So there's definitely we've basically got I would say at this point I think ELRS has more features. I would have to look at like what a Ghost has exactly, but I think because of the open source nature and just the tacking on of features, I think ExpressLRS has eclipsed it at this point.
Now, there's a couple questions in the chat. Somebody asked, how would this affect if you're flying with multiple people? It is true that because you are now transmitting way more packets across a wider band of frequencies, you will create more interference for other people who are flying. And I don't know how much of a deal that's going to be because you can have many pilots in the air using this chipset at the same time without really worrying about it. But it is an effect.
I'm sure somebody who knows could tell us how many channels that there actually are to jump around with on 2.4. For some reason, I think it's 40, but it might be more than that. I'm not sure offhand.
Okay. Somebody in Discord says, find someone who smiles at you the way Blunty smiles when he thinks about dropping 6 packets and still having 100 LQ. You did really have you really like that idea. Yeah. Now, Blunty, another question that came up in the chat is, does racers, they're flying at, 100 feet. In clear air, right? So why would their LQ ever not be 100? Why do they need this? Who is this for?
Well, I can tell you most racers race at 250 hertz because they want the LQ that 250 hertz brings them over 500, even at that short range. So I would say that there's still something to be gained there, if you want to push those higher packet rates. There might be situations now where people who also with just that D500, with the FLRC, but also with this, there may be more people who can run higher frequencies on these racetracks where there is often interference and a bunch of people around and stuff.
Right.
And just, Wi-Fi, all kinds of stuff, right? hopefully this will provide more security for those people to fly faster packet rates at a race. I know people who race Ghost still race at 250, so it'd be interesting to see if this pushed people who race ExpressLRS to go up to 500 because it was stable enough to do that.
Yeah. Brandon Beans says, take Ghost, flash ExpressLRS, reliable hardware. That's fine. You can do that. I would point out that Ghost only goes up to 350 milliwatts, which is, that's completely usable. But especially if you have the ceramic antenna to keep the size and down, and especially if you're running the fastest packet rates, you really want that 1 watt output power that you can get. So the Ghost is definitely solid hardware, but you may want that 1 watt output power. Great. Well, looking forward to this. I mean, it'll probably be a little while before we see this as a product you can actually buy, but it's pretty exciting. And when will the ExpressLRS devs burn out? Because there's a trend in open source projects where the devs work and then they burn out and then they leave. And I don't want this to happen, but it seems like they never take a breath. There's always some new shit that they're coming out with. And I'm like, guys, we need you for the long term. Take a vacation. I don't know.
Breathe for a second. I think they're excited by new stuff,
Yeah.
Like that's what it seems like anyway. So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Okay. Jordal says 100 milliwatt max at most races. You're not going to be using 1 watt. That's fair.
Yep.
I just want more power. Okay. Next up, we've got a new product in the HDZero realm, but this time it's not from HDZero or Fat Shark. It's from FrSky.
Yeah. We talked before a little bit about the FrSky Tandem X20, which is a built-in HDZero transmitter with a screen on it. And now FrSky is also releasing the SkyVision HD, which is a monitor, standalone, like basically VRX monitor for HDZero users. So it's built-in HDZero, similar to the X20, but this will have, the HDMI input and stuff, so you could use it like a monitor and use it for HDZero, all those kind of different things. And it's just sort of a built-in device from FrSky, which is interesting to see. We've really, this plus the Tandem X20 are really the only things we've seen that are this kind of hardware from another vendor. So
right. The promise of HDZero is that anybody can build HDZero stuff. Is similar to the way that anybody can build analog stuff, that they'll just sell them the chips. And for whatever reason, we haven't really seen any of that, except, as you point out, the FrSky Tandem X20 has HDZero built in. And now this screen is, some people are going to buy this screen instead of the regular HDZero receiver because it's got HDMI out. You could use it as your receiver, not just as a spectator screen.
I was going to say, I think that'll depend on the price. We don't have a price yet. So
yeah, that's a good point.
It'll depend where they land. But if they're anywhere close to like a normal VRX, for people who don't care about mounting it on their goggles, this might be a good solution. You sort of get a ground station here instead of a goggle solution.
I got to ask, does this have 4 antennas or 2? Have they cut down the number of receivers?
It's not clear if there are 2 internals or not, but there are only 2 external antennas. So I know, some of the other HDZero stuff has had 2 internal patches.
I see.
But I'm not sure if this has that or it's just 2 total. So.
Okay, well, that would certainly make a difference.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. And FrSky doing something innovative. FrSky's done some innovative stuff. EthOS is innovative, even though I don't want to use it. It's very cool. I wonder why FrSky... There's the Foxier Foxier's supposed to be dropping an HDZero video transmitter, and I recently saw on Facebook, people were like, where is it? And Foxier was like, we're still working on it. But other than that, I don't think anybody's making HDZero hardware except HDZero.
Yep, I think that's correct.
Wonder what's going on there. Dinesh says, I wonder how they plan on breaking compatibility with this monitor. I'm not going to touch that one. But I'm amused. Next up, we have... we're revisiting the topic of the spinning VTOL drone. And let's just show this video because people don't... Many people may not have seen when we covered it previously.
Well, yeah, this is a new video from the same guy.
Yeah. So what the hell am I looking at here, Blunty? Explain what's going on here.
So basically, this is a little quadcopter with 3 propellers, three prop, and essentially three wings. And what it does is it essentially, when you spin, it goes into spin mode and it's stationary. It will spin and then tilt the wings so that it can spin as efficiently as possible.
So I just want to nitpick. It's not a quadcopter, is it? It's a multi-rotor.
No, it's a multi-rotor.
And we would say that it's a tricopter, but it's not a tricopter in the traditional sense. As you can see in these videos, it has 3 motors and it achieves authority by tilting the airfoil surface. And it can do that and then go into this spinny mode. You're super excited about this, aren't you?
I think it's pretty neat because if you consider, like if you skip to like 4 minutes and 30 seconds, he has a chart that shows
This is not just a novelty.
Yeah, he wanted to see like what efficiency was like and then test extra stuff out. And so you can see here, when he does a spinning hover versus a regular hover with the same drone, with the same, multi-rotor, it's 35% of the required wattage to be in the same spot but spin instead of being stationary.
That's huge.
And one thing he points out is that there are many applications where spinning is either totally fine or required, right? So you could, let's say you've got to go somewhere and monitor for missing persons, right? So you could put a camera on the bottom and then spin on top while the camera looks around, right? And then you've got all that efficiency from spinning stationary. Or maybe you need a loiter mode, right? Where you're waiting to go somewhere and you need to loiter. So this could be a loiter mode. Another thing is like LiDAR needs to spin. So you could put a stationary LiDAR and just spin it with the drone. And then you're getting efficiency while doing the LiDAR scanning. So things like that are pretty interesting as like possible applications for this technology. So this video just explores, on the other part of the chart, what forward flight looks like versus hover and stuff like that to see if there was still any, efficiency. And he was able to fly, with less power as we would expect flying forward versus hovering. We've covered that principle before, but basically, especially with wings on the thing, the idea is that you'll get more efficiency if you're flying forward and moving and getting air movement. So,
there's some confusion maybe about why it's more efficient. It's and like we know that larger props are more efficient at generating the same amount of thrust. A larger prop spinning at a lower RPM will be more efficient for physics reasons. And so what he's essentially done is converted the entire body of the quad into one large, I said quad, whoops, the entire body of the aircraft into one large propeller. But then when he wants it to fly forward, it can transition into a more multi-rotor-like mode. I'm like this power savings, 65% less power is a massive reduction in power.
To me, it's big enough that it seems like that feature could be used in different applications for very specific things. It'll be interesting to see, if we see that borne out over time, if there's more of this stuff going on. So pretty cool.
The chat has also pointed out that technically it is a quadcopter. You know where the fourth propeller is? It's the whole quad, the whole aircraft.
Oh, I see.
The body of the aircraft is the fourth propeller. Fair enough.
Depending on the flight mode. So is this one of the first quads we've seen that's like basically can change the amount of propellers it has? Because if it's in forward flight, it's 3. If it's in stationary hover or spinning flight, it's 4. So that's kind of interesting.
I mean, I would give you that if we were like making a bar bet. I would say you'd won the bet. So this we originally covered this kind of as just a silly novelty, and we're like, okay, it's more efficient, but who's going to do that? But it's way more efficient, and maybe in some cases the spinning is actually a plus. This guy patented, right? I don't know. Very cool. I hope so. Very cool.
But either way, pretty cool stuff.
Alrighty. Next up, we've got an announcement about a drone race in Japan.
Yeah, so somebody sent me this today, and I thought it was interesting because I'd never heard of it until today. Maybe some other people have, but I certainly haven't. The Japan Drone League has been having their race series this year, and they've just finished round 6 with round 7 coming up. So we wanted to let you know about the round 6 results and what was happening in round 7. And I thought it was interesting because I was just looking through this and I figured I wouldn't know any of the names and, I have trouble saying a lot of them. But check out that expert class right there.
Oh, Thomas Bittamata.
Thomas Bimata in the first place there in the expert class, along with a lot of other great pilots who are flying alongside of him. So we've got open class, expert class, and pro class here at the Japan Drone League. So that was round 6, and again, round 7 will be October 15th and 16th in the Chiba Prefecture. So that's kind of interesting.
One of these things is not like the other. Good job. Yeah, Blunty, how did you find out about this? Because we were talking before the stream about, like, it's hard to find information about races. We had no idea that this racing league even existed. And why would we? It's, we don't not really focus on Japan. But knowing that it exists, it's like, wow, okay, I want to hear more about the racing community in Japan or whatever other country I don't know has a thriving FPV racing scene.
Yeah, today I got this one from, most of these I just get from random people, submitting them. So today was Trick Quatch on Facebook. And he submitted it for me and let me know about it. But yeah, kind of just from random folks. We showed one like a month or two ago that was, out of another random region. So yeah, if you ever have any of these, we'd love you to submit them to the news at fpvknowitall.com, that email that's down in the bottom corner of every show.
Yeah, for multi-GP events, of course, you can go to the multi-GP website, and they've got all the races from all the different multi-GP chapters. But not all races are multi-GP races.
Yes, absolutely. Quite a few are not, I think. Nice. And there's certainly also quite a few events that don't end up being multi-GP events, but they're also racing or stuff that happens there. So, I think there's a lot of cases where it's hard to keep track of this stuff, and if you find out about it, we'd like to share it for people. So,
Dinesh suggests opening a wiki for collecting information about FPV racing leagues and FPV races. I think how productive
here's what I would
be.
say: if anybody wants to get in and handle that and set it up and get it somewhere and get people to enter some info on it, we will share it here on the news.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wait. Wesley Vardy just dropped a bomb here. Thank you for being here, Wesley. Is it 6 a.m. where he is? That's awful early. Be watching the news. ExpressLRS or Futaba only at JDL2. Interesting to see BMS running ExpressLRS for the first time properly. Was Thomas running ExpressLRS in this race? Wow.
I've heard that the Japan only allows those two. So they don't let you fly other things.
You can't fly FrSky.
No, JDL approves links, sort of like other racing leagues approve links, right? JDL only approves 2 links, as far as I know.
Interesting. So. And he wanted to run ExpressLRS more than he wanted to run Futaba. Go figure. Johnny 5, your name came up in this conversation about, I don't know, we were just talking about, who might do a thing like keeping track of races around the world. And, your name came up as somebody who might be involved in that. I don't know, Blunty. It feels like there might be... it's hard to tell whether these ideas are things that would be useful to the community and worth the work you put in, or whether it would just be a website that no one would ever update. I don't know how you would make it work, but it would be nice to have like a calendar of races around the world. If only so you could see. Like, I'm not going to go to a race in India or Bangladesh but if I knew that there were like 50 drone races around the world this weekend, I'd be like, that's really cool. Anyway.
Yeah. People watch ESPN, so.
They do. What if there was a sports center for drone racing?
Yeah.
We could just sit around and shoot the shit and talk about drone racing.
Yeah, I think that would be good. You just need the right people to do it. We kind of talked about that a little bit before the stream as well. And I think you just need the right people to do that, and then somebody to be dedicated to handling it. And you just got to be committed, pot committed, and do it every week and get all the information you can. And it's not going to be, I think it's the unfortunate part, I think, is like, you need to get footage, you need to get licensing for the footage probably, or you just need to wing it and do whatever, right? And then you need to like actually cut it and clip it and talk over it, and it's not like, I don't think it's trivial. So
and then would it get views? You have to make it entertaining.
Yes,
because at the end of the day, I was going to say at the end of the day, all drone racing kind of looks the same, but all football is just throwing a ball. So
I don't even remember the name of the program, but I'm sure plenty of people know what it is. But there's that TBS Sports Center, maybe is what it is, or the one where it's got like Shaq and so I don't know, a bunch of guys, and all they're doing is clowning around most of the time. They also talk sports a little bit, but like 85% of the show was them joking with each other and doing bits and like making fun of players and stuff. And like, to me, like that's sort of the thing you want to achieve, because you want people to be excited about like the people doing the conversation and then also the sport, right? That's how I would look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that, well, I don't know. I was going to say one of the things that professional sports has is that the personalities of the people on the field are known by the viewers. So we're not just covering the mechanics of a football game and who won the game. You're also talking about the people. And I have a feeling that a lot of people they're aware of like a few big names in FPV racing, but that they may not be as aware of people at a more regional level. And I think if you were going to do a show where every week you covered drone racing, you would end up down in the sort of regional level where maybe there's not as much interest in the actual people who are racing among the broader FPV community. I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, there isn't a big national level race every weekend.
There are a lot of them, though, I would say. There are like a surprising amount, like in international, right? So like, I don't know. I think there's room. I would say maybe there's room.
Maybe.
But
could interview
people have to take
from the
somebody
race.
doing it. And it's not me. So.
I think it's Johnny. Johnny, does this sound fun? You make a weekly.
Hey, go do some work.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great. Hey, John, I got a great idea. Is what every YouTuber loves to hear. I got a great idea for a video you could make.
Yeah,
I think
exactly
if he decided to do it, he would be good at it. He would be good at covering. Go ahead.
I think the problem is what we discussed, which is like, can you actually draw anything from it that's worthwhile to be doing it so often, right? And then covering it like you want to cover it. Yeah. Like otherwise, it's just a passion project, and then it's going to be hard to keep that going for a long time.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, anyway, that is going to bring us to the end of the news this week. We're even finishing on time. Go figure. If you thought that today was a light week and we finished on time and you would rather have seen us go on and on and on and on for 20 more minutes, you need to submit news to news@fpvknowitall.com. Anything you think we need to know about, anything you think we need to cover, mail it in.
Yeah. A couple of folks have mentioned, I've heard this before too, and somebody mentioned in the chat, where is the, It's Barely News segment? We used to have It's Barely News all the time. Mm-hmm. And the problem is we don't get any Barely News submitted, and I don't necessarily hunt for random drone news that's not that important. So if you've got, random drone news that most people won't know about that's not super important, but might fit in It's Barely News, you also got to submit that too. Don't be afraid. Yeah.
How do you feel about pissing off people you don't know exist for things that you never knew would piss them off?
That's a very non-contextual statement.
Slop It left it here. I'll show the comment. Slop It said, "Blunty's wall of lazily hung drone shit irks me to no end."
Gotcha.
I don't know. On some level, if he said that about me, I'd be like, yeah, suck it. I'm going to go put more shit on the wall just to piss you off. I'm
certainly not going to fix it. I mean, yeah.
Alrighty, guys. We are going to wrap up. We'll see you next week, and we'll get out of here. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
Good hanging with you.
Bye.